parallelogram is a quadrilateral, which means it has how many sides? Huh? 4 sides. Okay? And the opposite sides are parallel and congruent. So if we're looking at this parallelogram, again, these opposite sides should be parallel and congruent. Parallel and congruent. Okay? So the steps to finding the area of a parallelogram. So the first part, the most important part, is that we are finding and highlighting the perpendicular height. I want you to highlight this specifically. The perpendicular height. So if we remember perpendicular, how many degrees? What type of angle is that? A what? 90 degrees, a right angle, okay? So remember, we kind of talked about it a little bit. If you're going to the doctor to get your height measured, you're not slanting, right? You're standing up as straight as possible. So when we're looking at the height, it's not going to be necessarily a slanted height. It's going to be whatever is perpendicular to one of the side legs, okay? So that is really important. Sometimes there's going to be extra information given to us in the problem, and that's okay. All right? Then we're going to highlight the base that is connected to the height at a right angle. So with your other color, I want you to highlight the word base, and then it's at a right 90-degree angle. So we're going to be using our two highlighter colors to identify the base and the height in the problem. Then we are just using the formula A equals BH, which when you have two letters written next to each other like that, it just means it's being multiplied. So the area is equal to the base times the height. Okay? And then one thing that's really important with the geometry is we have to include units in our answers. So for area, since we're multiplying two measures by each other, the units are always squared. And it's important to include units, because if I say my house is 20 square inches, that's a lot different than 20 square feet or 20 square yards, right? It's a really small house, but 20 inches squared is a lot smaller than 20 feet squared, right? So let's look at these examples here, okay? So first thing that I always look for, and I'm using blue for my height, okay? The first thing that I always look for is that 90-degree angle, all right? So in this problem, I see my 90-degree angle right here. And so that perpendicular height that I want you to highlight is this right here. What side is that perpendicular to? So what is the other side measure that this 90 degrees is connected to? Is it this right here? Is it this right here? Or is it this on the bottom? The bottom. So I want you to highlight this bottom line. Those are the two sides that are connected at the 90-degree angles. Which means the two measures that we need to multiply is our base of 18 and our height of 7. Do we need to do anything with this 9? No, it's extra information. Okay? So what I want you plugging in is writing that your area, A, is equal to your base of 18 times your height of 7. What is 18 times 7? Brittany? 126 is correct. And then what were the units in this problem? Feet. So we don't just write feet, we write feet squared. All right, so number 2. First thing I'm looking for is that perpendicular height. So again, I'm looking for that 90-degree angle. Okay, and the measure that's attached to that 90-degree angle there, I'm highlighting with my blue for the height, is this dotted line here. 90-degree angles? Is it this on the left? Is it this on the right? Is it the one on the bottom? Which one? The left. Okay, so I'm highlighting with my base color that side on the left. So if I look where I highlighted in blue, the height, I can tell that the 3 centimeters goes with it. Where we highlighted orange, there's no measure there. What is the measure of that side? 20. How do we know that it's 20? Perfect. It's the opposite sides are congruent. So if this is 20, this is 20 right here. Okay? So we can set up our equation. Our area equals our base of 20 times our height of 3. We don't do anything with that 4. That's extra information there. What is 20 times 3? Asher? 60. And what are our units? Centimeters squared. Okay. So those are 2 problems with whole numbers. Let's look at some with decimals. Great. So looking at this with decimals, it should be the same thing. We've got a calculator to do it. It shouldn't make it any more difficult. Okay, so I'm looking for my 90-degree measure. What side is that perpendicular height that's attached to that 90-degree measure? The right side. Okay, so I'm going to highlight right here where that dotted line is. That is our perpendicular height. Which side is that 90 degrees connected to? Emma? The bottom. So I'm going to highlight this measure on the bottom here. So we know our height is the 8.7, our base is the 11, this 9.5 is extra information. Let's go ahead and plug that into our formula. Area equals our base of 11 times our height of 8.7. Somebody tell me what that is. Naya. 95.7. 95 and 7/10. And what should our units be? Centimeters squared. Awesome. Alright, so we did whole numbers, we did decimals. Decimals really weren't any different than the whole numbers because we've got calculators to do that work for us. Okay? So now we're going to look at fractions, which is the same exact process. It's just now we have to remember how to multiply fractions. This is why we have our factor charts. Okay? So first thing, I'm still just identifying my base and height. So I'm looking for my 90-degree angle. Can anyone tell me what the measure of the perpendicular height would be so I know where to highlight? What's the measure of it? What number?
Oh, 2 1/3.
Betsy?
2 1/3.
2 1/3. We're going to highlight this dotted line here. 2 1/3. What is the side that it is perpendicular to? The base length then?
3 3/4.
Naya? The left. There's no measure there though. So what is the measure of that side? Leonie? 3 3/4 because it should be the same as this side on the right here. So let's go ahead and first just plug this into our equation. Our area, and we're going to need a little bit more space on this one because we're going to actually have to calculate this out. So our area equals our base of 3 3/4 times our height of 2 1/3. When we multiply fractions, what is the first thing that we have to do? Do I need common denominators or do I need to make them improper? What, Leonie? Make them improper. So first step, we're going to make these improper. 3 times 4 is what? Plus 3 is, so we have 15 over 4 times 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7 over 3. Now we should be using our factor charts. We want to look at our diagonals to simplify. Looking at 15 and 3. What do 15 and 3 both divide by? 3. What is 15 divided by 3? 5. What is 3 divided by 3? 1. What about 7 and 4? What do they divide by? 1, right? That's it. So they both divide by 1, they stay the same. 4 divided by 1 is 4, 7 divided by 1 is 7. All right, we simplified. Now we can multiply across. 5 times 7 is 35. 4 times 1 is 4. I'm okay with you leaving your answers improper, but we do need to include our units. What are our units? Yards squared. All right, let's do another type of problem. Okay, so we did whole numbers, decimals, fractions. The only other thing here is doing some problem solving, okay? So what we're doing here is we're finding the missing values. We're working backwards by setting up the equation, okay? So first thing that we're going to do when we're finding missing values is we're going to write down the formula. So we know that we're working with parallelograms, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to write area equals base times height for both of these. Okay. Well, let's look at number 5. It says find the height of a parallelogram with an area of 78 and a 78 meters squared and a base of 6 meters. So I'm going to go through and first highlight or circle key information. We're given numbers, right? I see 78, I see 6. 78 is referring to what? Is it the area, the base, or the height?
Area.
The area. Okay. So our area is 78. So I'm going to plug that in for A in our formula. The 6 is referring to what? The base. So I'm going to plug that in for the B in our equation. Do we know the height? No, it says find the height. So we need to keep that as our variable. Now we've got an equation that we can solve. How do I solve this equation?
Easy.
By doing what, Amir?
Divided.
Divide by what?
6.
6. The side with the variable, h to be multiplied by 6. The opposite is to divide by 6. Cancels out on the right side. On the left side, what's 78 divided by 6? What is it, Eric? 13. So this one is where we have to be careful with our units. When we find the area, our area is units squared. But our height, do we go to the doctor and say, hey, you're 5 feet 6 inches squared? Or are you just 5 feet 6 inches? Just inches, right? So the units here are just meters, not meters squared.